Hey guys, and welcome to my Wednesday video. My name is Becks and this is my channel, Becks X. Hey guys, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about my chronic illnesses. I've mentioned them in passing a few different times and I talked a little bit about it in my testimony video, and so I kind of wanted to go into my full testimony regarding my health. So I'm just going to dive right in. Growing up, I was fine. I didn't know that I had any health conditions, and so my childhood was completely normal. And going into primary school years and high school, everything was fine for the most part. I had some recurrent kidney infections and they figured that I just had a small bladder at the time, and so it just meant I should go to the toilet more frequently, and there was nothing else beyond that. And then I was very accident prone, but we thought that was just me being a clumsy person. I did used to get a lot of sprains and stuff like that. Even sometimes I would have injuries where you would have thought I would have done more damage, but I actually didn't, and that kind of just went along and I really didn't think anything of it, and different things along the way to do with accidents and stuff that happened. No doctor really put two and two together. I never would have thought to put anything together, and so I just thought I was normal, healthy, a little bit clumsy. So we go all the way to university. I was living my best life. I was super bezy, taking part in Christian Union, which was like an extracurricular at university that was super fun. I was doing stuff back home in my local churches. I was just busy. I was at uni all day long. I was hanging out with friends. I was going to different events. Like, I was just having fun, and I was busy, and I was walking everywhere, and I was just living my best life. And I graduated uni and I continued doing all that stuff. Everything seemed totally normal, and I started my first proper job after leaving uni. And about like a month and a bit in, I started to get a problem with my feet. They were really painful and I was really struggling, and the job I was working in was in a school, and so I was standing pretty much the entire school day because my job was to be moving around the room, working with particular students that had special needs, and I just was never really sitting. I was always standing, and so they thought I just had something called plantar fascia, which is just kind of like where your, if I'm remembering correctly, like your heels, they're just not as strong as they should be, and they get really painful, and some people get injection shots and stuff, and we were almost going to be at that point because I had changed and was wearing different shoes, but I was still struggling. But I'm really glad I didn't, because not too long after that I started to get these kind of mini fainty kind of blackout spells, and I started to get really sick and feel like I was really struggling. And I ended up going to the doctor, and I completely broke down because I couldn't understand why, as a 21-year-old, I couldn't keep up with my work life, with my social life, with everything. And I was finding, like, even at work, I couldn't get across from like one part of the school to the other, and there were people working there that were over 60 and they were totally fine, and so I knew something was wrong. And unfortunately for me, the first doctor I spoke to was not great. She basically said that I probably wasn't good at my job or cut out for my job, and that's why I was feeling this way, which obviously normally you don't have issues with your feet or fainting spells and things like that just because you don't enjoy a job. And so my family pushed me and I went to see a different doctor, and I went ahead and had blood tests and stuff, and that was a big deal for me because I had never had a blood test. I had avoided them. I'd been lucky, I guess, to never have been sick before that, and so when I decided, you know, I need to get checked out, I need these blood tests, I need to know what's wrong, I knew it was going to be, you know, it was something kind of serious. There was something really wrong. And so after a few weeks of looking at blood tests and stuff, I ended up taking a leave from work, and after a few weeks they suspected that I had chronic fatigue, and the way I was going was really rapidly downhill. And chronic fatigue affects people in different ways, but if it goes completely untreated, if you don't give yourself any break, you can, in some circumstances, end up bedbound and stuff. And we had known a couple of people who had really severe effects from their chronic fatigue, and it took a really long time to get over. And so I made a really hard decision, and I actually had to quit my job, and it was really hard and sorry, and it was really sad. I can smile now because the staff there were amazing, they were so kind and so supportive, and they had me back to do temporary bits here and there when I started to get well in the coming year, but it was really hard for me to do that at the time. But my health just took a plummet, and I spent about 7 months basically at home. I couldn't go out anywhere, I didn't go anywhere by myself because I was always feeling faint. I was beyond exhausted. I can't even describe it. There's no amount of sleep that would have made it better, and my joints, my body was in just pain, and it was pretty bad. And so that went on, and about 7-8 months after that I was finally seen at the hospital where I got my diagnosis. So they told me I did have chronic fatigue, but my chronic fatigue had been brought on by another condition called joint hypermobility syndrome. And so basically I had not realised my whole life that I was hypermobile. So my joints and stuff don't quite work like a normal person's. They can very easily dislocate, sublux, which is why there was quite a few times, one that I'm thinking of now is I was doing something and a really heavy bag caught on the back of my thumb, and it pulled my thumb all the way back, and my thumb literally bent back, and they thought that I broke my thumb. That's what most people would have thought, because your thumb usually can't do that, and I didn't. I had just sprained it a bit, which was really strange, and now I know it's because my joints kind of can take more in those kind of accidents because they are so movable, but it wasn't a good thing, and my body was taking a lot of strain, and my knees and stuff like that were in a really bad way, and I needed a lot of physio. My body was really weak, and I had lost muscle. Like my knees had almost had no muscle left. It was really bad. So I was glad to get the diagnosis, and then after that I would say it took at least another 6-7 months of me working with physio and going to a chronic fatigue clinic just to learn about how to pace my life and what my new life would look like before I eventually did go back to work. But in that time period it was extremely hard. I smile a lot when I talk about things that are hard, and that's just a mechanism that I have built up over the years, but it was a really tough time for me, and I was extremely emotional, and it really challenged me in with my faith, and I appreciate what I went through because I think it's made me grow stronger. But in that time, if you imagine, I've gone to uni and I'm doing all these amazing things and I think I'm going to work into this career, and then it's suddenly just ripped out from under me, and I've been told now that I have all these conditions and my life isn't going to be exactly the same as it used to be, and that was really hard. I kind of was just like, why me? Why is it being ripped out from under me? I've worked so hard to get here. And that is how I felt at the beginning, but over the time of being out of work, yes, my life's changed. So for me now, I have to really schedule in social time, and even with my family, I can't just do everything whenever I want. I can't just hang out with people whenever I want, because my body can't cope with that amount of energy being used. When it comes to working out, I'm really limited to how long I can work out, the type of workouts that I can do. Walking my dog can be really exhausting sometimes. I have to plan so that I only do so much physical exercise in one day. My work life, when I did go back to work, it's part-time. I still work part-time because I cannot cope with anything beyond that, because my health just goes wild because my body is just too exhausted. So my life changed drastically, and I struggled with that. But I had to come to realise that my life has a plan, and God has a plan for it, and I have to trust Him, because all of this is happening for a reason. It has to be for something, and that started to really show itself. I want to say when I had started to kind of go to physio and stuff like that, so I was starting to get a bit better, I had been talking a lot with the pastor at my church at the time, and I started running a youth group in the summer and the holiday periods with the teenagers, which I still do. I think this is like, this would have been, I think, our 3rd year, but obviously with lockdown we can't quite do the things we would normally do, but I started that while not being well, and I was able to help take part in something called Girls Brigade more and more, and I just started doing more things, more service to God, because I had the time and I couldn't do other things, and this was flexible and this was workable, and it was worth it. It was worth me being a bit tired and going and hanging out with all the youth and getting to know them better and helping direct them towards Christ. It was worth it. And so I kept doing those things, and before I started my job, I was still doing that. I then started studying at a Bible college before I went back to work after my whole year out of being sick. And so God started using that time of me being ill to change my direction. And I went from working in a school, working with special needs, I went to work at nurseries, and that was great because it was great part-time. It was great for my self-esteem, it was great for my career, it was great for me to still work with kids. But it was also amazing because I still got to do all the stuff I was doing at church and studying online, and it just snowballed. I just continued doing stuff in church. I became a deacon at my church. I still am. I still do the youth group. I took over and became a captain of Girls Brigade, and I've just taken on more and more responsibility at church, and that kept growing. And then I actually started preaching and talking the word of God, to sharing that with the church, and that was amazing. That was a huge thing for me, coming from a background of anxiety and fear being in front of people, to standing at the front of a church and leading the entire service because God was doing it through me, was amazing. I'm still so amazed that I do that and that I do this. I sit here on YouTube. It's funny because this week I led a prayer meeting and I got really nervous about it, and my family were really surprised, and then they were like, wait, actually I forget that only a couple of years ago you were anxious about everything, and now your life is like the polar opposite, and we forget that you get anxious. And it's because God's completely transformed my life, and I truly believe he's done that through my health, because if I hadn't have got sick, I would have continued going in that path with my job. I wouldn't have had time to do things for church. I wouldn't have had to stop and trust God more and spend more time with him and rely on him and not on anything else or anyone else that the world can offer, but just what he offers. And it really just changed me. It just shaped me. And right now I'm in a position where I'm in between jobs because of COVID, and I'm just trusting God that whatever is next for me is going to be exactly what he's planned. And I'm grateful for this time too, because I have been on and off not feeling too great because of my different health conditions. Since I had those diagnoses, things have developed and I found more things that are not quite right, and so my bladder is one of those things that is not amazing, and I have to do treatments at home for that. So yeah, I'm grateful to have this time off to rest and to just really spend more time with him, because you can get through anything in life if you have God and if you trust him and you go to him. And so my faith was shaken in the beginning because I questioned why is this happening, or why would God want this to happen to me? But now I am so grateful for it. The same way I think I mentioned in one of my videos before that, when I was bullied in school, I wouldn't take it back. I wouldn't change a day of it, because it's made me who I am, and it gave me a drive to move forward, and it honestly made my faith. Those days were breaking me, but it was making my faith. And it's the same thing with my health. My health was breaking me physically, mentally, but it was making my faith. Spiritually, I was growing, and so I wouldn't change it. And if you are in a journey of chronic illness, or you're going through an illness that is unexpected to you now, or you're going through something drastic and you don't understand what's happening, that's okay. It's okay to ask God those questions and to talk with him, but hold fast, because very soon you will see what God is doing in you and how he is using that. He totally used it in me, and if I chose not to look at the way he used it, and if I chose not to see how he's changed my path and blessed me through being unwell, then I would be in a very dark place. But I had to choose to open my eyes and to see those blessings and to pour myself into what God is doing for me, through my health. And so for me personally, to an extent, of course, there are things I pray for that God can help me with in my health and heal me with, but at the same time I fully appreciate that he is using this as a tool to help me. It is a tool. It's a tool that genuinely gives me more drive, gives me more focus, and helps me. And I see that in the Bible. There are many people who use that have something. Even when you look at the life of Job, you know, he was tested to such an extreme, and his faith remained strong, and it made him. In his life being broken, it made him. And so I do believe that my faith is being made in these days of chronic illness, and so I will continue to have hope in God. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. You got to know a little bit more about my journey with faith and illness. Yeah, my final word to you is just please don't be discouraged. Trust God in the plan that He has for you, even if it's one that's hard and full of trial right now. It will lead to abundant blessings, and really good things will come out of it, because there is nothing that God does that will not end up providing something amazing and good. God does everything to work out for good, so look out for the good things that are coming. Alright guys, it was really good to see you, and I will see you again on Sunday.